Podcast. It's your boy Luke P along with my man Mark here. And we have a special for you today. Our man behind the scenes, Jesse, right there. And on assignment, I know you folks are wondering, Jocelyn, but she's on assignment right now, so she's not in with us today. And of course, our man up in the sky, watching over us, DJ GOC. Right now, we're going to talk about the new movie, I guess you could call it the new Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark. Now, what's interesting about the title, you automatically think of the title like, well, what does the title refer to? And if you watch this movie, they talk about, this person's a saint or that was a saintly act and things like that. Thus, the title's fitting. Now, let's jump into it. Marv, go.
If you look at the translation of Moltisanti, that literally means many saints.
There we go. Look at our man in the research. Excellent. And I'm sure somebody who goes, well, we knew that already. So, well, I'm glad you did. So with that being said, obviously you're watching and listening to three gentlemen that have watched the Sopranos series back in the day. Now, let's all remember, Sopranos was ran from 1999 to, I believe, 2007. Am I correct on that?
6 or 7, one of those.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking early 2000s. So you got to think of that time period when this show was created. This show was created during an era where they're calling it the golden age of television. I mean, think about what HBO brought out. They brought out that. The Wire was out shortly after The Sopranos.
Easily those two, Sopranos and The Wire, number one's The Wire, number 2 Sopranos, my favorite TV shows of all time.
Yeah, we could do a whole thing on The Wire too.
Oh my God, I want to. Can we do something about The Wire? Because
episode, folks, future episode on The Wire. But we're talking Sopranos right now. And so if you saw the series The Sopranos, you obviously know about Tony Soprano, his family, just to get into it. So when we see this movie, you're wondering, okay, well, what's it about? It's obviously a prequel. And the story is more based on Dickie Moltisanti. Now, I know Marvin has an issue on feeling it's a split movie, that it's like 2 movies in one. Am I correct on that, Marv?
Okay, so
Go
this
ahead,
is
you talk to us.
So my problem with this movie is they were trying to make, they have a TV show, they're trying to make a movie, in the sense that when you have a TV show, you can have multiple storylines be the focus, because eventually you'll have a few episodes in the future resolve that. Mm-hmm. But with this movie, you only have 2 hours. I kind of feel like either tell the story of Dickie Moltisanti or tell the story of Tony Soprano when he's growing up. And I feel like they should have told us the story of Dickie Moltisanti because, one, the movie is named after the Many Saints of Newark. That is his movie. Mm-hmm. Now, if you wanted to treat Tony Soprano as a side character, that's fine. But the fact that they were trying to treat his story like the main story on top of Dickie Moltisanti, not only didn't do any justice to Tony Soprano trying to see where he came up and what he learned, because I really didn't feel like he looked. This is because it's implied that he learned everything from Dickie Moltisanti, but I didn't really feel that because there was so much time that they weren't together. And now at the same time with Dickie Moltisanti, you saw, like I said, you saw his journey. Like I said, I was more interested in him. And like, if you're gonna have a movie called that, have him be the star. But because they tried to give I guess it's fan service to try to connect Tony Soprano to make him the main thing. Like I said, make him a side character, make him like the guy that's trying to learn. So I also found it funny, like one that's actually James Gandolfini's son playing young Tony Soprano. Yeah. And also another casting thing, I didn't realize this. Dickie Moltisanti, he played the younger brother of Nicolas Cage in Face Off. I was like, wait, that's him? I was like, no way, because he's so weaselly in Face Off, and you see him here, and he's like, wow, it's a different guy.
Really? That was him?
Yeah. Alessandro Nivola. Sorry, I'm a human walking IMDb, as I like to say.
Wow,
he was great actor. Troy.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow, that's a great actor then. Yeah. Well, our man Jesse, who we hardly ever hear from, we are really curious to hear from him.
He asked to be on this, so we want.
So please comment. I will follow you. Go right ahead. Sir.
Okay, so generally speaking, yes, I'm glad that we're talking, and I'm glad that I'm honored to be here to sort of fill in for Joss and Gio. I love the mafia genre. It's fun. And the reason why I like it is I honestly think the stories that are presented from the mafia aren't really different from any real life. The only difference is they're involving crime and murder. But if you really relate to all the family themes, the business themes, you see those in real life all the time. Cliques, groups, for strategy to go ahead and acquire. So when it comes to the movie, I off the bat I enjoyed it because I was thrilled to be thrust back into the Sopranos stories. I discovered it late, literally like only the last 2 years, because growing up when it came out, I just didn't have cable, and I heard about it. I heard about it through Lulu, or even like my cousin Robert. They enjoyed it. It took about 10 years for me to discover that. So when I finally had access to it on 3 platforms: Netflix, Hulu. I had to chase it down because they would stop showing it on one. I had to go to another one. They stopped showing on Hulu. I followed. Now I got HBO Max, and now I'm just going.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah,
I'm kind of like Jesse, but not that late. I actually read the analysis of the final episode with the whole famous going to black a year after it aired. Like I originally tried to watch The Sopranos earlier, but I think I just wasn't in a mood to binge something right away. And then like a few years later, when I read the analysis of that final scene of Sopranos, believe it or not, it was the final scene of Sopranos that got me to watch the show a year after it ended.
So, exactly. So
not just as recent you, but yeah, I didn't start watching Sopranos when it was coming out either.
So if based on what Marvin said, if there's anything we've learned from that one scene, how it ended, it's not just you watch it one time and on the surface you react to it. You kind of have to watch it because it's like an onion. It's got different layers. If I had to say my overall reaction to the Many Saints of Newark, it was trying to do a lot of things. And I honestly think the only way you could really maximize the enjoyment of it is, to be honest, you have to be a fan. You can't just watch it. Oh, this is my first first thing I've ever seen from The Sopranos. If you watch it, you're going to get a little lost. Or it won't,
I really
or
feel
some
like
notes
this would
won't
have
be
been best
hit.
served as a miniseries than a movie.
Yeah.
At least the miniseries would have had time to build that relationship between Nikki and Tony, and you would have seen the apprenticeship as I was talking about. Instead, they only gave it 2 hours, and it was just like I didn't really feel it. That, like I said, I felt like well, it was nice to see some of these Easter eggs of The Sopranos, like especially like little stuff like Tony Blundetto. I know that's Steve Buscemi, but other than that, I personally didn't feel like it added to it. That's me personally.
Well, this is again Many Saints, Multisantis. So you're looking at the generation of Multisantis. There's like 1, 2, 3. You have I forgot Hollywood Dick. Is it Sammy, the twin brothers? You have Dickie, and then Christopher, who basically is present in both ways. Because if you follow The Sopranos, he died in I forgot this. I will reference the season in the episode.
You're talking about Christopher Moltisanti, right?
Yeah, Christopher Moltisanti.
Oh, yeah,
he died at the hands of Tony Soprano. So basically, right when you hit the beginning, when you see the beginning scene, when you see the graveyard, you're hearing the voices of them, just each grave telling its story. And if you watch The Sopranos, it reminded me of an AA meeting in hell. Basically, everyone's saying why they're there. It basically, that's what it is. I'm here. I died. I should have done this lawyer thing. I should have. They opened me up when I died I think I was having a baby. Then you get to Christopher's grave, and he's talking about how I was a soldier, but I was like an altar boy, really. This is where David Chase, I think, is really interesting. He separates a little bit from Scorsese and Coppola. It's almost the same flavor as Scorsese, where you're dealing with mid-level guys, lower guys. But one of the strengths of The Sopranos is very intellectual in terms of breaking down mental issues or basically family issues. The audience is Dr. Melfi. It's a little clunky, but I think that was also based on the limitations of it trying to follow up on an Emmy-winning show with award-winning characters and actors, and I think that's one of the weaknesses. It has the actors who I think are really fabulous. I like Vera Farmiga. I hope I pronounced it right. I liked her in Departed. I liked her in Bates Motel. She plays a really good troubled, crazy person. And the same with here as she plays Olivia. But she also had to follow up the previous actress who did that, who's again, award-winning actor. So
yeah, so I
this is
remember
hard.
David
This is
Chase
hard,
going
dude.
so far as to say, because when you were talking about how Scorsese is different from Coppola, different from Chase, David Chase has said like the way he approached this was like a lot of the characters were based on his family. He actually said Tony Soprano and his relationship with his own mother was very much like David Chase's own relationship with his mother.
Yes.
Where he was very filled with angst, and you're like, what the hell is this? So, I guess I think it's a little more like like you said, it was a lot more personal, just going more into the mental health of being in this lifestyle that isn't usually touched upon. I mean, other than maybe what that Robert De Niro movie analyzed this.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about, we talked about Chase, and Marvin touched on it, how a lot of the stuff between Tony and his mother in the first season and a little bit in the second, but she already passed away.
Yeah, that's an interesting behind the scenes stuff. Like, I guess in season 3, she was planned to be in this big storyline where she was going to rap against Tony, but because the actress died in real life, they had to write that in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The actress is Nancy Marchand.
Yeah.
Yo, excellent. She's excellent. I mean, if we remember her in Naked Gun.
Really? Wait, she's
Okay,
she's
the captain, right?
Naked Gun. Come on, Marv. How'd you miss that? But anyways, Chase, obviously we all know about the relationship Chase had with his mother.
I'm sorry. I just saw who she is in Naked Gun.
Yeah, exactly. You know who she is in Police Squad. So,
Leslie Nielsen in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sorry.
But they said, obviously they put more drama into it, the relationship with Tony and his mother. But here's something interesting that I want to bring up: the fact that Jesse touched on it, and as big fans of The Sopranos, and we're the Everyday Nerd podcast here. My wife has never seen any episodes of Sopranos, so we saw this movie together on HBO Max. Now, the best way I could sum this up for her, and Jesse made the point, it's kind of like watching Star Wars, but starting with Phantom Menace. Right? You're going in chronological order, but, Star Wars kicked, obviously, with episode 4 through, 6.
Yeah.
That's the order you need to start in. But for somebody like my wife, who's never seen an episode of The Sopranos, we watched it like that. So I told her straight up, I go, well, it's like you watch Phantom Menace. Okay. And I had to explain certain characters. So you mentioned, I know on our side conversations, Marv, about a lot of the characters we see. We see Paulie Walnuts, we see Sil, we see all these guys in The Sopranos, yet you're like, whoa, I thought Tony was old as them. But no, they are older than Tony.
Yeah, I thought they were Tony's contemporaries in the show.
They
were with his father's crew, which
yeah.
This is another thing I wanted to bring up. I remember in the show how Tony's mom always praised Tony's father.
Yes,
he was
called him
great man. You should be like him. And yet you're seeing this movie, and they didn't have a great relationship either. So it kind of gives you. Do we often look back in history at our own lives, at the past, with rose-colored glasses sometimes, where we see these things and we value them, but at the moment we're like, no, it wasn't as great as we might have said it was.
I think you're touching on it, because every time, and again, so I started my wife, we're watching season 1, Sopranos. Every time the mother talked, oh, your father was a saint. He was a saint. And Tony would straight up go, here we go with this again. Here we go. And then Tony even said it with his session with Dr. Melfi, how his mother was the one that turned his father into this little man. It wasn't the mob. It wasn't all this. No, it was his mother that so basically Johnny's wife just kept nubbing at him. That,
what I thought about?
At the beginning of The Sopranos, hold up, Mark. At the beginning of The Sopranos, Tony's talking about how his dad just basically became a shell of a man because of his mother. And that's why we talked about how the plans for this series really evolved around Tony and his mother, but unfortunately she passed away. How great would the series have been if she would have still been alive, and how Chase had certain plans for the characters. And season 1, like I said, I'm rewatching season 1. You really see how hard it was for Tony. The fact that, and that's the funniest thing about it. That's what made the show so great. when you see mob movies, you always just see okay, he's the head of the mob. He gets to whack people. He does this and that. No, the Sopranos kind of pulled the curtain on a guy's everyday life. How if he was a regular guy doing a business life, like let's just say it was a legitimate business he was doing, the stresses he had to deal as being a middle management guy in the beginning, middle management guy dealing with his coworkers, then having his relationship with his own family, then his mother. See, that's what made the genius of the show really come in. And that's why when it comes to like this movie, I know what you meant by how you felt they kind of strayed back and forth. They should have just kept solid on, if this is about Dickie Moltisanti, let's just keep it about Dickie Moltisanti. I felt, just my opinion, I felt they did enough of it, how they kept enough, and they did it a lot of the teases of Tony because, like you said earlier, the fact that a lot of the fans that are going to watch this movie, they're kind of, when you say Tony Soprano, it's like, oh, okay, all of a sudden the interest peaks. Like, oh, what's Tony doing now? See, as opposed to, we didn't really know about Dickie Moltisanti unless like Christopher said a line about his dad, or even Tony himself said, you wouldn't know until you met the great Dickie Moltisanti. I remember Christopher saying that about his dad. See, so that's the most we ever heard about his dad. So I kind of, in just my opinion, I thought they did it enough. But you also with Tony, you saw Artie Bucco, you saw all these guys, you saw Jackie Aprile.
I just like saying that. Artie Bucco.
Yeah, Artie Bucco. You saw Carmela.
Pussy.
You saw a young Carla. You saw Pussy, and that was great. He goes, wait, which oh yeah, it was Big Pussy. Well, don't have to worry about him. See, so that was kind of the whole, like you said, for the fans, kind of a little tease, a kind of, okay, yeah, these are the guys. And like, well, I'll be honest with you guys, I wanted to see the incident that Tony B saved Tony Soprano. You remember how that was the whole deal?
I think it's gonna come up
now. Yeah, so I was hoping we would see that. Like, okay, this deal, how Tony S was always just, no matter what Tony B did, he always backed him because of what he did for him. So, Marv, you're going to say something. Go right ahead.
No, I was going to talk about Tony Soprano's father. Okay, you watched Goodfellas, right? Do you remember when Henry Hill told his wife, you know why most of us go to jail to get away from our wives? So that's why I couldn't help but think that when Tony's father was going to jail, it wasn't so much to, he's being punished. It's like, my wife is driving me crazy. I need to get away from her. I couldn't help but think that made me think, because she was driving him crazy. And even when he came home,
what did he say?
Granted, he was being excuse my language, he was being a bit of an asshole with the whole.
He was.
Who are these guys? Who are these black people that moved in here? And then when he comes home, and then like I said, she has a tendency of making everything about her.
Yes.
So there was that scene where she was actually trying to do something good for Tony, and they're trying to have a conversation. And Tony just made a suggestion about maybe you should just try taking the meds. And she was just like, "Oh, look at you!" It's like, "Oh my goodness, you guys want to have a conversation. This is what you're having, and now you're making it into nothing." And that's why, like, I want to watch The Sopranos again, because I remember Livia Soprano annoying me when I was watching the show. And then when I was watching this movie, I was like, oh man, I remember how she annoyed the hell out of me.
I gotta jump in. I gotta interject, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the character, three things: the character of Livia Soprano, the actress Nancy Marchand, and Vera Farmiga. I love those three pieces.
It's nothing about their performances at all.
No, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, what I really love about it is, if you go back to those generations, this is my commentary. Women's strength isn't necessarily physical; it's mental, and I think this is where you're gonna see. You just saw basically a hint of how Livia Soprano, her ability to manipulate several men in the show. Yeah, you got her husband Corrado and Tony, and I think that's where she plays her. It's her. She actually has a mental illness. She must be They hint that she's suffering from either. She has to take that medicine, Elevin or something like that. It's an antidepressant medicine, or it's
that's why I was kind of sad. We are doing spoilers, right?
Yeah,
so in the end, when they find Dickie Moltisanti's body, you're like, I thought better of him. They found this that same thing, that same drug, Alvalin you mentioned, which he probably got for her at Tony's request.
I think he did.
Yeah.
I think
so here's the deal.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, the point I was going to make was, the only point I was going to make was because of that condition, it affects a lot of the outcomes. So basically you have a Tony who's not well either. His mental illness, he's driven by it. And now he has anxiety. They didn't lead it to it. I mean, spoiler alert, they didn't touch on any anxiety attacks in this movie, but you could see after many years of having a mom, because obviously the spoiler is, who's going to live, and Olivia is going to stay alive for a long time. Imagine living under a roof where someone wasn't well and untreated.
How old was Tony when his father died? When did his father die?
According to season 1, because like I said, I'm just starting to with my wife. His father, when they did the pilot episode, they were mentioning how his father recently passed.
Oh, recently.
So and
they never revealed
that could have been a year, that could have been 5 years. We don't know. But he said recently passed. That's what he would say. That's what he would said in his first sessions with Dr. Melfi. Now,
but I kind of feel like if it was a violent death, they would say he was killed. But he died. Passed, so
basically, what I'm looking at is he basically died in the year 1986, and he died from emphysema.
Well, there you go.
Oh my God! There was that scene where they're driving in the car and Olivia's just going crazy, and then what's his father's name? Is it
Johnny Boy?
Johnny Boy. He just pulls a gun and he shoots her in the hair. I was like, what the?
Exactly. That's just insane.
That's why it's kind of like, like I said, you look back at how she idolized her husband, and then she drives him to do something like that. You're just like, wait, so why do you worship this guy when, like I said, when in reality your relationship wasn't even that great either?
My guess is I'm wondering. I have to look at more dig deep. But I'm wondering if
grow fonder.
No, I'm wondering if this is David Chase's brain we're in. That's what I said in the offline. I think we're seeing maybe it's possibly mimicking one of his experiences with his own mom. Maybe I'm in theory. It's just good storytelling.
Yeah, I think they maybe there was I don't think his dad shot his mom in the hair.
Oh no, I mean, but the mental illness part,
I think though, again, we talk about how Chase it's really established Tony and his mother's relationship was influenced by Chase and his relationship with his mother. Now, he has said that it wasn't as dramatic as it was portrayed, but, and he said his childhood was good, but there were certain things that came from his childhood that he used for the characters here. And again, while I'm watching season 1, guys, it's funny how the mother keeps saying, "Oh, your father was a saint. Your father was a saint." She was saying that also in this movie. In the earlier, since it's her in the earlier days, your father was a saint. Oh, he's a saint. Johnny's a saint. Johnny's a saint. But then, like we were talking about, all of a sudden, she's the one that's always busting on Johnny, on Tony, all the males around her. Corrado, how she's a big influence on them, and how she just constantly the scene Marv you're talking about with
Soprano, right?
Yeah, Junior Soprano,
aka Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, the scene you're talking about with the sandwich, how you figured they would have a normal conversation, and all of a sudden it turned real quickly when he suggested the pills. Kind of reminds me of season 1 when he's suggesting to her, "Oh, you live in a retirement community as opposed to a nursing home." Her reaction to him, "Oh, you don't know any better." See, that was her thing to him, was you don't know any better. You're not smart enough.
That's what people like that do. They tend to, if somebody says something counter to them, they do anything they can to invalidate their opinion, even if to say something like, "Oh, but you don't do this. That's why I don't trust you."
Yeah. See,
that's what people like that do. They try to invalidate the person to invalidate their opinion. So.
And again, we're watching a movie. Again, it's sort of like how we did Star Wars. We watched Star Wars before Phantom Menace and all those other movies came out, where we know these established characters. So we, like Jesse mentioned, we know later on what happens to Tony, what happens to his mother. See, so when we're watching this movie, honestly, in my opinion, I think it's kind of difficult for Chase to kind of show stuff that we already know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, he's got to sprinkle the foundation of how this relationship happened, how this character developed. And in a way, it's like, well, we already know the answer. And that this was one of the things, kind of, again, using the Star Wars reference, I felt Lucas had a big problem, in my opinion, when it came to Darth Vader and the transition of Anakin to Darth Vader. It's like, look, we all know he becomes Darth Vader, but how are you going to do this? How are you going to? And in my opinion, I felt Lucas kind of painted himself in a corner, like, well, this is how.
Exactly.
This is how it happened.
Exactly.
So, in a way, it's kind of difficult. I got to give it up for Chase. How, I know Marv, you felt it was two different stories, but they threw in the Tony bits. They threw in some of the familiar characters for people to recognize, but I think it's kind of hard to, you want to kind of throw something that, okay, this is why Tony is this way type of thing. When we've seen the series, so you go, oh, well, we know why he's that way. It's because of this and that.
Then it should have been Tony's movie with Dick Moltisanti as the side character. Like I said, I think this movie it was trying to figure out whose movie. Like, okay, there's a while when I took playwriting classes, and one of the things our instructor always told us, when you're writing something, whose story are you telling? Which character? It may not necessarily be the main character, but whose story are you telling? And I feel like this movie was trying to figure out whose story. Is it, like I said, is this Dick Moltisanti's movie story, or is this Tony Soprano's? If it was Dick Moltisanti, Tony Soprano should have been the side character. If it was Tony Soprano, I thought Dick Moltisanti should have been like the mentor, like, clearly showing like, okay, I ain't learning shit from my father, but Dickie Moltisanti's teaching me everything I need to know about the family. I would have liked that too. But
in my opinion, I thought they kind of did that, Marv. I kind of thought they did. Yeah. Maybe not enough for you, but I thought they kind of did a little bit. Just, maybe not enough for you, but I thought the facts when he would pull him aside and what he told him is, look, when he gave him the speakers, the fact that when he took the advice from his uncle to not, to stay away from Tony's life, period. I mean, I know he was trying to be a mentor. I felt that, because what's interesting is when you see this movie, how Junior is trying to say like, oh, I'm the one that mentored Tony. I'm the one. No, he wasn't. No, he always said that bit about, oh, who did you play catch with? You played catch with me. Right. He always said that. And then, and again, because I'm watching season 1, that's what he keeps telling Tony, that, oh, without me, I'm the one that helped, it was me. How could you be disrespectful to me? And so that's why I think, it showed that. And even Liv said, Dickie, he listens to you.
I like that little interaction when Tony was carrying baby Chris, and baby Chris is crying, like, why is he crying? How come he doesn't like Tony? And then that was one of those Easter eggs that clearly us who have watched the show, well, they even mentioned it in the beginning of the movie. Like, that's Tony Soprano. He killed me,
Yeah.
But the question I have was, who is Christopher's mother? Because they made it clear early on in the movie that Dickie's mother can't have kids, and yet he starts this relationship with Gumar. Is Dickie's Gumar? Is that how you pronounce it?
His
mistress. I'll just say mistress.
Yeah,
his mistress.
Girlfriend.
So who is his mother? Is it his wife or his mistress? Have they explicitly said?
Well, as far as who is Christopher's mother, you brought up a good one, because I was thinking that too. That, wait a minute,
Yeah, because they made it clear, like, oh wait, it might be the mistress, it mean the mother. The next you see Dickie's wife carrying little Chris. I'm like, wait, I thought she can't have kids.
You did bring up something that I was thinking about myself. Like, wait a minute, they're presenting the baby here at this party, and that's why I was wondering, was that was Dickie's wife that was parading around with the baby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have to remember, in that life,
weird,
you never bring the mistresses home to the family.
Yeah, that's why. And that's why I was thinking that too. I go, wait a minute, how the heck, so that's an interesting one. I don't know. I think maybe
unless there's some really messed up thing where that is his mistress's baby, and he told his wife, "We need to treat him like our own."
That's the only thing I could think of. That would be the only thing.
And that is something I kind of wish they did that. If that is the case, that would be like, ooh, I don't know why you're ignoring something.
That should have been. I think that should have been. Heck, it could even have been a throwaway.
Like I said, if this was Dickie's movie, that's definitely something they could have addressed.
Yeah, they could
in the show.
Simply, yeah,
and in the show, I mean, Christopher has a mom. That's the same woman, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's Dickie's wife. We just obviously.
But was that his mother? Is that his biological mother?
No, I don't think so. No, because they established that she.
We're on some
Wait a minute,
lost
you're right,
level
though.
type
You're
of theory
right.
crafting.
Yeah, that was one I see.
If in the show that Dickie Moltisanti was built up more, like if he was treated like, kind of going back to your Star Wars reference, we always heard about Anakin Skywalker in the original trilogy. So when we finally got to hear his story, we immediately got the weight of that story. Oh, we're finally learning Anakin Skywalker's story. I think if in the show they made, granted, we can't really criticize the show for this, because at the end, it feels like the movie is shoehorning a character that, as Jesse said, they're forcing us to care about. But if the show had built up this legacy of Dickie Moltisanti, the great Dickie Moltisanti, and then now we're watching this movie about him, I think it would have been more impactful. But like I said, I think I agree with Jesse. Where I kind of feel like we're forced to care about this character.
Yeah, that's true too. I agree on that. And then also the fact that, let's get real, guys. I think this movie, Marvin, you talked about how either you do it on Dickie or you do it on Tony. If James Gandolfini was still alive, I gotta believe it would have been a more focus on Tony movie than the Dickie movie, so to speak. Because
I feel like the Sopranos told his story already.
They did.
I don't think there would be anything more to add to it. Other than,
well, again,
like I said, I would be, just like how do you see Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader? I think I would have been interested in seeing how did Tony Soprano become mob boss Tony Soprano.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we would have saw that if James Gandolfini was still alive, because then you could have done the, easily transition into seeing him now. But yeah, it was really cool.
Okay, I thought you were talking about like after, like if. No. Are we gonna? No. I know. We're talking about the Many Saints of Newark, but are we gonna discuss? Should we discuss the final scene of Sopranos since we're still here?
Yeah, we could do that then.
That's a little scary. That's scary water because a lot of folks have already talked about it. The final, we're gonna diverge.
We can throw our opinions on it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's throw our opinions on it. Okay, so obviously, the long setup. I'm sure, like you two gentlemen have said, you've read a lot of internet stuff about this, what the scene really depicted of, what Chase said. I've seen one interview and I've read one interview of Chase's thoughts about the ending. And I've kind of gone with this one. I know a lot of people were pissed. A lot of people thought their cable came out. A lot of people thought HBO dropped. A lot of people thought that. And all of a sudden you see the credits. You're like, wait, what the hell just happened? I heard and read David Chase's one that he said, and I'm going to ride on this one. Everyone thinks, well, was Tony whack? Was this whack? I honestly believe Chase established that the audience was whacked. He whacked the audience.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, look, when you get whacked, you don't know what's going on. You're just like living your everyday life. You're doing things. All of a sudden, it went dark.
I never, this is my first time.
You never heard this one?
No. Because the only thing I've heard David Chase say about the finale is if you watch it carefully, you know exactly what happens.
Yeah.
That's all I heard.
Meaning you believe Tony gets whacked, but I've also heard that he whacked the audience. See, he did the ultimate. He whacked you, meaning he killed you. In a way that we've seen 8 seasons of guys and people getting whacked so many different ways. All of a sudden, we got
see
whacked.
How this ending aired like 15 years ago?
Yeah,
and we're still finding something. It shows you.
Yeah.
Wow.
My answer is short. My answer is short. Okay. I like what you said, by the way, and I like that. I like what David just is saying. And
that's definitely more of a fourth wall type of answer.
I belong to a Sopranos fan group. And when a new member joins, they ask, "Did Tony die?" All the people who comment, a lot of them say, "I can't have this conversation again." That's a quote from Tony. Exactly. I can't do this again, bro. And it's beating a dead horse. So I'm gonna live with the fact that he died.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and because I think just the way they frame the scene, it's, believe it or not, it's conditioning you. Like there was a big analysis. Every time you hear the door chime ring, you immediately switch to Tony's point of view. Because he looks at the door. So when that last door chime in goes to black, and as Bobby Bacalari famously said, you might not. What did he say when it comes to death? You might not even see it coming.
Exactly. See,
but that also I listened to another podcast, and they brought up their theory about why it's possible that he didn't die. It's just more like this is just Tony realizing this is the world that he's going to live in now. That everyone is an enemy around him. He has to accept it. Like, you see how we're looking at everyone carefully around him. Like, wait, is he going to whack him? We're going to whack him. And you're just like, oh, I didn't think about that either. Like I said, I love how this one scene is, like I said, this was the scene that got me to watch the show. But we're still coming back to the scene and we're still getting something new out of a 5-minute scene.
Yeah,
what can you say? Can you say that about any other show or movie?
No. And I think Chase has kind of had fun with this too. Chase has really had fun with this. And I ran with that one, that he whacked the audience. That was my thing. And I go, all right, I'll buy that one more, because I'll admit, when I first saw it, I was pissed. I go, what the hell just happened? I was fuming, and I knew she's gonna go, but did the cable go out? What's up? What happened? But then obviously the credits.
I think I was. Where was I when I was watching? No, that was the Sex and the City that I was in the same room my sister was watching. But I do recall that the reaction was like the reaction was very much like, what the hell?
I got a quick question. So I refresh my memory because I'm digging deep. It's just kind of vague ideas.
Yeah.
At that point before he died, he had just won his battle with
with Phil Lotaro.
Phil Lotaro.
Yeah, New York City.
This is retaliation from New York, right? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, Phil
Lotaro was involved. What was it? He killed Vito.
Yeah. They went back and forth with killing each other's guys over like money and takeover. But I'm like, okay, so if we're thinking about there were reasons why Tony Soprano was going to get whacked.
Well, he had his sit down with New York City though. Yeah. And that's where they established, and again, like, this is funny, I explained this to my wife, how in order to whack somebody who's you need permission. And Tony was given permission that, and again, at the end of the day, the only reason why you get permission is because of money's involved or business. So it was established that, okay, well, we'll give you Phil, but you got to give us this, or we'll stop. We won't back Phil, and this is what's going to happen. Because remember, Phil's second started feeling the heat from Phil, because Phil started, doing his own thing, was kind of getting out of control.
Oh yeah, that's when they had the counter and be like, "Dude, we need to stop." And they're like,
we need to stop Phil. Yeah, exactly. See, so that's how that ended. That situation ended.
Phil got killed in front of his grandkid.
Yeah, and the way he went out. Yeah, and his head got woof. They really,
oh man, you're making me want to watch the show again.
I feel like we're hitting a lot of side missions.
Yeah, we are. We're going in off.
So here's how I want to take it back to the movie. Let's start from Holston's. Like, basically the setting is Holston's.
Oh my god! I was like, wait, is that
the end scene where Tony Soprano's last scene was. I won't say he died. I'll just say his last scene was in Sopranos. If we go back to the movie, where Holston's is a setting. That is, I'm gonna go take it to the next idea. The title, Many Saints of Newark. The only way I could basically definitely just accept this movie as an enjoyable movie is I had to frame it as this. It's a Moltisanti's movie with generations, the brothers, the son, Christopher. And then yes, Tony, in my opinion, is a side character, but they're setting it up for future movies.
You're right. I think
now, and we see the Many Saints of Newark. That is the setting. But I have this thing sometimes where like I think the environment is part of the character. It's part of the character that's emotionally part of the movie. So we talk about the setting. Like, hold on. If we talk about the setting of Newark, what's happening in the movie is David Chase chose to choose a moment where there was heightened tension in Newark during the riots.
Yeah,
so that's an important part of the film because it drives a lot of the things that are moving around with the African American, like I don't they call it just the mafia, their mafia, and then the Italians. So I don't know if you guys want to touch about that. What did you guys think about the whole idea that they're this whole thing, this what's going on?
I'm glad you touched on that. Yeah. So obviously the riots did actually happen in New York. Yeah. There was a fight. If you look it up in 1967, there was 5 days of riots, and it's funny. I was saying this to my wife, and lo and behold, in the movie, Frank Lucas makes an appearance. Now, I told my wife this. I go, in the movie American Gangster, the reason why Frank Lucas for a while was under the radar was because the cops and the feds always looked for the Italian mob. They always said, who's the real person? When Frank Lucas was the guy the whole time. And I explained to her how Frank Lucas established himself as the only full-fledged, African-American man who owned his company. He wasn't part of management like his mentor, Bumpy Johnson was. So I know I went off on a little tangent, and that's why I found it ironic. I go, whoa, there he is right there. There's Bumpy Johnson in the movie. So like what we're saying, so when we get back to this point here, the fact that, and I'm glad you touched on this, the fact that the folks in the Black community say, well, why do we need to run with the Italians? We should do it ourselves. These are our own neighborhoods. That's why that war started a little bit. That's why that guy got whacked in front of the liquor store, was the fact that they wanted to establish that, hey, this is our territory. We could do this ourselves. Why do we need to, it's basically, we got to give you money to run our own business? No. We're not doing that anymore. So they wanted to establish themselves. And here's another side note I want to mention. And this is so funny that it just happened while I was having a conversation with my wife, is that, remember the scene when Dickie comes in with the guy, the other African-American gentleman? They both played in high school football, that character who eventually later on comes back. But when he
talking about Harold?
Harold, that's it.
Harold
when he came in the room, you remember how, Dickie was like, hey, how you doing? And they were talking a little bit, and how the older guys in the room were insulted that this Black guy's in their room, and how it was insulting that why are we even working with them? When Dickie established that, hey, it's about money, which is, hey, at the end of the day,
that's Dickie's thing.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, Chase established this in The Sopranos too. The fact that the Italians or Sicilians, they had this thing against African Americans, and there was just something about it where they just, oh, we don't mix, you don't mix in with them, that's their own people. And that to me was the reason why Dickie ends up killing his mistress, because the fact of the matter, not only the fact that she cheated on him, but the fact that she cheated on him with a Black man. Oh man, that just, that's why I knew it. When she told him that, I go, he's going to kill her. And sure enough, he did. And I find that a little kind of ironic that he killed her after he killed his dad, when his dad was being abusive to her. Yeah. So it's like, wow, okay, you killed your dad over a woman who you end up killing later on anyways. See, so that to me just kind of set the tone of how the thinking of some of these guys are, and how this whole omerta, the code and all this, and how, you don't mix with Black people is what he was saying, and that's why he went, I knew it. Once she told him because look, if she said she cheated on him with one of the other mob guys, let's say a guy who's just as high ranked as him, he wouldn't have killed her, I don't think, but he would have probably slapped her around and stuff like that. But because it was Harold, oh, that's it. He goes, no, there's no way, and it's like he felt disgusted because you know why? He's sharing this woman. So he has that, the thinking. He has now him in him, that blackness in him. See, that's the thinking that some guys have. So that's why I knew it. Once she told him that, I go, oh, you're dead, honey. You are dead. And so, that's just, I liked how you touched on this, Jesse, the fact that it was that those riots actually happened in the 60s in Newark, and how the Black community is saying, well, wait a minute, why do we need to pay the Italians? This is our neighborhood. We should run our own numbers.
If there was a theme about the whole genre, the idea of greed and where it takes you. If you watch this one line in the movie where she's talking with Dickie for like outside and she's smoking a cigarette, and after she's just getting kicked down the stairs by her husband, she had said a line saying, you know what, maybe I was just lying to myself about this love thing. Maybe I really just wanted to come to America for the money. I wanted American money.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Maybe that's where I went wrong. I think that's where sometimes when people make choices left or right or whatever, it leads to where you end up. And her deal was to be, an American woman. You saw her in her eyes. She's, oh, I'm in America. I'm here, and singing in Italian. But she's bought into this loveless marriage with an old man who's attractive at the time. Ray Liotta's character. He can beat him. Then she jumps to Dickie. Off the bat, you already know her thinking. And then she jumps to Leslie Odom's character, Harold. And he says, "I'm gonna back you. I'm gonna support you if you were my girl."
Yeah.
You know what I think
and then she gets what she wants. At that moment where she's trying to just open her mouth about all this stuff, then she meets her demise. I mean, that's not I don't know if that's the character thing. That's just the way the story. Whoever wrote that to say this is what you're gonna get.
Speaking of demise, I do find it interesting that of all the factors that we were introduced to in the movie, how in the end, Dickie Moltisanti, how he met his demise was basically because he laughed at Junior.
Yes.
And then, and that's what I'm trying to remember. Was Junior this vindictive? Was he this petty? Would he kill people over something that little?
No, I think this is his rise. And if you watch the movie over again, they really run into him. They can't. There's like several times where Corrado or Junior is basically being humiliated. One, he shows up to an event where his wife isn't, or his girlfriend or wife isn't there, and they basically either Dickie or somebody, or Paulie or somebody, says something to the point where
so he was kind of like the laughingstock before all of this.
Yeah, they were doing that. He was also a weak mentor to Tony, where Tony gravitated to Dickie.
Yeah,
Corrado, he's saying, I'm the man. I'm gonna take care of my son's kids. No. Then they catch him where he's falling again, and he falls a lot in the show.
Yeah,
he falls on the stairs in the movie, but in the TV show, he falls on the court steps. He falls on the bathtub. And then I think this is his drive, his motivation to sort of be at the top or be the boss. He's a capo. I don't know what his station is. He's probably a capo along with Johnny Boy, and Dickie might also. I don't know if he's like an underboss or something. I don't know what the ranks are, but I think they're setting up a story where like you're gonna see how vindictive and Corrado can be, because by the time of the Sopranos, he's already an established lead. But at the time of the Sopranos, also you see his health degrade and his mentality degrade.
That's why that's why I wanted to say earlier, maybe what we're seeing now is a part of a whole, and we're going to get more movies in the series. And maybe once we get more of the series, once we get more future installments, if there will be any, that maybe I won't be so harsh on this one.
I believe we will, because I think Chase is signed up with HBO to do stuff. So I think we're going to get some more stuff. Now, let's touch back on Corrado there, Jesse. You're right. And correct me if I'm wrong. Did he speak to Liv about some of the stuff, how he feels disrespected by Dickie in front? Was he talking to her about this? Because in season 1, he's constantly talking to Liv about the problems with Tony, his crew, all this younger generation.
Which is
so
weird because aren't they the same age?
Well, no. With Liv, yeah, he's talking to Liv. Did he talk to Liv about how about this situation he has with Dickie, or was he just speaking out loud with his girl? I'm not sure.
The moments I can only remember Corrado and Livia were talking were one when Johnny Boy is sentenced for 4 or 5 years and they're sitting together crying. The other time I know is when Tony has just been expelled from school and they're talking about Tony and he needs to get talked to. Corrado, they have a conversation with Corrado, but Dickie intervenes in that. But I can't remember them any other moments where they were back and forth.
Yeah, because in season 1 in Sopranos, and I know you guys saw this, Liv tend to influence Corrado a lot.
Oh yeah.
She really like planted seeds in his head. And as much as every time she did, she always pulled but what do I know? I'm just some crazy old lady. What do I know? She always pulled that after she would say something. So obviously later on when we see in The Sopranos how basically she kind of green-lighted Tony to get whacked. Okay. She basically green-lighted that. So that's what I was wondering, in this movie, was he talking to Liv when it came in regards to Dickie? Because I know he was complaining about Dickie in front of, I think, his girlfriend or his wife or whoever she was, but I'm not sure about.
Could it be she was talking about Johnny?
Was it John? Well, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying, because it wouldn't shock me if there was. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It would, again, somebody's going to comment and say, "Yeah, dummy, it was this or whatever," or "No, they never did." But it wouldn't shock me if there was a scene like that, because it was established in season 1 that Liv, and we talked about it earlier, how Liv had this control and this influence on these men. So I think maybe, and it wouldn't shock me if she talked to Corrado, kind of planted that seed, like, really, you're going to let Dickie Moltisanti do that to you, laugh at you, And so, like you said, I mean, he's clumsy, he falls, they all goof on him. And guess what? In season 1, in The Sopranos, they're still doing the same thing. Christopher is robbing from him, him and Brendan are robbing from him. And
my God.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why I'm just saying, Corrado, I'm not saying Corrado was a joke, mind you, but in a way, he was kind of, the way I could sum it, he's kind of like Fredo in a way in Godfather. His last name is Soprano. He has some rank, but it's not like he's an established, he's a boss that you would go to or you respect enough to know. Because obviously we've seen The Sopranos and I'm watching season 1. I'm not at the point where he's appointed boss, but he's only boss by title. Everybody knows it was going through Tony, and Tony was able to establish what he wanted. He wanted to make more money. He got some businesses and goes, you know what? You get the title of boss, but I want to get this. I want to get that. Mm-hmm. See, and that's what I'm saying. I think what they established with Corrado is ever since back then, he was always looked upon as not a joke, but they didn't really look for him for leadership.
They overlooked him.
Yeah, he was always, okay, it's Corrado Soprano. Yeah, all right. He's a soprano. He's a boss, but I'd rather go to Dickie. See, that's why it established. Oh no, he listens to Dickie. Not you, he'll listen to Dickie. See, so being that, Dickie gets whacked because he was laughing at Corrado, which is kind of ridiculous, but I guess Corrado in the movie, they're trying to establish that he's trying to show that, hey, you laugh at me, this is what's going to happen to you. And it's funny how in the series, I'm not saying guys are laughing at him, but guys are like kind of, man, Tony, we know you're the real boss type of thing to him. So, yeah, it's a shame how Dickie got whacked because of that. Now, here's the question. When we all saw The Sopranos, and we're not, again, if you're watching this right now, you go, you guys are giving away so many spoilers about The Sopranos. Well,
it's been out for 14
years. You should have watched
The
Sopranos.
It ended 14 years ago. Yeah, plenty of time.
Exactly. So my question then, guys, is the guy that whacked Dickie, is he the cop? Remember, Christopher killed a cop.
Okay.
So was that the cop?
I'm not 100%, but I'm not ruling it out.
When did he kill a cop?
So there was an episode where, so just to reestablish it, Tony took the one day after hanging out, Tony Soprano tells Christopher, I know who killed your dad. This is the guy. They're over at a Hooters. They point out this guy who's having a retirement party, the police officer. And this is the guy who killed your dad. Yeah. And he was basically saying, oh, wait, I remember that. I was a baby. He was carrying TVs or something. No, it was TV trays, but it could have easily been a TV. That's the man who killed your father. Now, here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing about those two shows. Memory could be fuzzy. So one comment I heard was, if Tony's telling it, it could also be just a little fuzzy memory, you know what I mean? But for this moment, I mean, it's possible that it was the police officer that Corrado has associated with and had him killed. You know what I mean? So if you see some stuff online, it could have been the cop who did it under Corrado's, or it couldn't have been cop. And you know what? Tony could have, for some reason, had some mysterious purpose to have an individual killed for his own purposes and have Christopher do it as a test. Who knows? I don't know if they ever addressed that moment again after he killed him. I mean, do you know?
Yeah. My feeling is also, if we do see more like future stories of this series of the Sopranos, or storylines that Chase is going to put out from this establishment, I think this is going to be my guess. This would be my prediction, is you're going to see Corrado have a relationship with these black mobsters. Let's remember who was hired to kill Tony in season 1. It was 2 black assassins. Do you remember this? See, so I'm thinking Corrado hired, or establishes himself with the black community in New Jersey somehow later on, if we're going to see future events from this storyline of this family, which would be interesting. And I agree with Marvin. If they are going to produce some stuff, and HBO's done this, I think it shouldn't just be a movie. I think it should be a miniseries. Maybe
that's exactly what I said. I think this should have been a miniseries.
I agree with Marvin on that. Just 7 episodes or something like that, so you could, like Marvin said, and I agree with him, you can establish more. You could see more. You could build more on what these characters are trying to do, or what you're trying to do. Now, again, we all know that Chase originally wanted The Sopranos to be a movie. And so maybe that's why this was his shot to do a movie. Maybe HBO goes, well, all right, let's see how you do with the movie. And if it does pretty good, then okay, we'll have you, if you want to do some new stuff, then sure. So I'm thinking this movie probably helped establish for him to, write new stuff. Hopefully, again, I'm with you, Marv. I'm hoping it's another miniseries, not a series like The Sopranos per se, just little bits and pieces, a storyline here and there. Tony before he becomes big, just something like that maybe. And then I don't know, you could do something like, again, or we could do like you said, Mark, if they focused on one character, let's just say they focused on Corrado, or they focused on Johnny, Johnny Boy, just specifically on him. And then you would see Tony every now and then, because obviously it's his son, or you would see him, if it's a Corrado story, it's his nephew. So I'm with you on that, Marv. I'm hoping they do something like that. I honestly don't need a whole new series per se. Of course, I'll watch it. I ain't gonna lie, but if it's a miniseries, I'd be down with that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Let me ask a question, and I want to get a thought out of my mind, but just to get it out of my mind. I noticed that there was, I don't know if it was the writing or here's the deal with David Chase. I have to ask if there was meaning in it, because I've seen, along with the death of Tony Soprano and how you can overanalyze and see because I think you actually did inject a lot of symbols in there. They're not with the things that are in those projects. They're not without purpose.
Yeah.
I was noticing in Many Saints that this idea of like twos, like Dicky Moltisanti, he has his father, but coincidentally he has a twin. He has a twin, Sammy, he has to also talk to. He has like 2 women in his life right now. He has basically his wife and his Gumar, but he also has Christopher, but he also has Tony. I don't know if it was just how it was written, or if there was some sort of purpose to that. If we go back now, I'm going to kind of alternate into another direction. I've been watching him like interact with Sammy. I think that's the name of his name. I gotta look. the Ray Liotta character in jail, the father's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been struggling to understand, like, why are you even talking to this guy? Why are you talking?
That is his uncle.
That is his uncle, but why? He's in jail. He's not like he's got like a lot of power, and he wants to reestablish a relationship. True. Like, why bother? And my only off the top of my head, my guess is, well, maybe because they look alike, he feels like guilty that he killed his dad, and he wants to go ahead.
I was gonna
some sort of penance.
Penance. And I'll piggyback that. Yeah, he's doing penance. Yeah, because he killed his dad, and he feels like he needs to make it up. You notice that a lot of the
just
time.
Like him.
Yes.
Yeah, he just wants to make it up. Oh, how can I make it up to you? It's like he didn't say it in so many words. Like, hey, I killed your brother, so I owe you. He didn't say that, but I think he wanted to. Why he kept seeing him was the fact that I have penance to make, and also, like Marvin said, he looks like his dad. So in a sense, it's like he's talking to his dad. The relationship he always wanted with his dad, in a way.
What if Sammy Moltisanti wasn't a real character?
Interesting.
And the reason why I asked this was this. Okay, there's a scene that's in it where he talks about beat baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dickie goes into his dream, or not, like the flashback or some whatever of him is I don't know if it's real or it's idyllic, where he's playing baseball with his kids. He's actually looked up to. He's a saint. Cut. He's not talking to anybody in jail. I stopped. I was like, why is that scene there? Like, what happened there? Like, it was a little disorienting. Like, again, one of those, I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness of the movie. Like, what are we watching? That's what I'm asking. What do you think happened there?
I think you're onto something there, because in my opinion, Chase doesn't put stuff out there by accident.
Yeah.
There is a purpose to it. And apparently he was a coach for blind kids. They were supposed to be blind, right? Wasn't that it?
Yeah.
He's coaching these blind kids baseball? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I think for one, it was an embellishment, but you're right in the fact that, was he saying it to anybody, or was he just, or did he actually tell this to his uncle in jail? So that, and he wasn't sitting in there. So,
okay, if you watch the movie, right, time progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal, all right. Dickie meets his uncle. Yeah, he looks the way Ray Liotta looks. He's supposed to look. Supposedly, years pass. He's still talking to Ray Liotta's character. Ray Liotta doesn't look like his appearance has ever changed. For the Sammy's character, if years are supposed to pass, he looks like he's still in the same thing. He looks the same haircut. But you think over time, even like Moltisanti's hair, they changed. Tony grows up. This guy looks the same throughout every time they're meeting in jail. That's why I think I wonder if it's a figment of his imagination. But that's just me. I wanted to see what you guys thought about it.
Sixth Sense thing.
Well, here's the deal. Like, again, off the bat, when you're hearing ghosts introduce the first lines in the movie, then you can accept that there's some sort of, okay, we're going to incorporate themes that aren't based in a reality of a certain plane of a movie. It's not just a street crime movie. We're going to talk about, I guess, for lack of a better word, spirituality or mentality, and mental illness. I mean, maybe part of this is Dickie, a lot. If we talk about that age, if I had to reference Olivia, the idea of like mental issues being unresolved, she's not taking her pills, so basically she's not being treated. Tony Soprano, he took his pills. Yes, he was going into some dreamland, but I think the fans didn't want any more of that, so they wanted more guns and probably nudity. To be honest with you,
like the dream stuff.
Yeah, me too. And I think
dream stuff was good.
Yeah, and if you know David Chase, he had several episodes that involved dreams, that involved the idea of afterlife. Where are we at now? Why am I saying this? Where are we going with Dickie Moltisanti? That scene, I had questions about why we spent time just observing it visually. That he explaining that his desire, I guess, was to help out children and to, be meaningful, be a saint. You tell me what your thoughts were about that. I don't know.
Go ahead, Marv. You were the one eager to.
Oh, no. I'm just listening. You got really deep. I was like, whoa, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, we got deep now. So.
I like this. We just like, let's screen like.
We're like, I'll chime in. I think he always, again, it goes with the title of the movie, The Many Saints of Newark. So this is how he's a saint here. Not only it's just the name Molasante, but this is how this person's a saint. This is how that person's a saint. And by him being a baseball coach for blind kids, I believe, like I said, they were supposed to be blind, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, when did he have time to do that? So I'm thinking, okay, this is one of figment of his imagination. Now, you were right when I picked up on that real quick too, that he's talking to nobody, or it looks like he's talking to nobody when he's telling this story. So I don't know if it's something that he wishes would happen. He wishes he would say to his uncle. It's something, that's the only thing I could come up with in that regards without it getting too deep. That, I know we established that Tony and Liv, they have mental issues, or, they're establishing their mental health issues and everything now. Whether Dickie has them too, I don't think, besides that scene, I don't think they really threw anything out there like that. Am I correct on that, Jesse? That any like mental health things in regards to Dickie?
I didn't get anything.
See, so I'm thinking that was more, in my opinion, more of a he wishes he could have said that to him, because that would be, he wishes that story was true, that he could say that to his uncle. Maybe the shot was establishing the uncle already left, and he wished he said something like that to him. That would be my interpretation, because again, they didn't really, as far as Dickie goes, they didn't really touch on him having any mental health issues, just a lot of male, in my opinion, male cultural ego issues at the time. That would be my interpretation of his attitude. But as far as him having actual mental health issues, I don't know. I think, again, what we saw was him thinking what he really wanted to say and wish he could have said to his uncle. That's my
But I also think there's something to, like I said, something that Jesse mentioned earlier. Like it now I can't help but I can't ignore it now. The fact that he killed his father because he treated his mistress badly, and then he ends up killing her. And he ends up, basically, it's almost like following in his own father's footsteps. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, that's something I can't stop thinking about now. It's like,
and his father was abusive to his mom. So
so in the end, we are what we know. Yeah. We grow up to be what we know.
Yeah. And then I don't know if they mentioned this in the movie, at least in the trailer, they showed that they said that being part of the family takes its toll.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said that in the movie. I have to watch it. Maybe it does. Maybe if we're talking about this, maybe that's a reference to that, because at the end of the movie, he was kind of a little depressed. He's following, his name's Sammy, right? The guy, saying cut ties with your nephew, because he's got it, and you don't want to have him killed. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to, or that's what I was interpreting. You don't want, based on the pattern of the people in your life, your dad, your Gumar, you really should cut ties with your nephew. And that's the sad part, because that was actually, for me, the sad part of the movie, that they couldn't, they had to have that relationship end, and then leading to his funeral. You could see that it affected Tony, and it's going to affect the trajectory of where he's going to go, the character.
Yeah. So it kind of, I think, in a way, like Marvin said, earlier, I think it kind of established, you kind of saw the groundwork of where Tony's going to go there. You knew Tony was like a troubled youth. He would do, crazy things, steal the, ice cream truck with, I believe Artie Bucco was in there, since I know you love hearing that.
I just like
Artie Bucco. And I don't know if that was Jackie Aprile, I think, was probably with the third guy in that. But one scene I have to mention, I couldn't stop laughing. I had to rewind it. Now this is Tony in elementary school running numbers. My goodness, I couldn't stop laughing. And when the kid goes, "Yeah, that's my number, it's 16," that was just awesome. That
was pre-state awesome. Lottery.
Yeah, that was just awesome.
So dang,
I loved it.
Wow.
I loved it. That was just too funny.
He was a racketeer, dude.
He was starting right there. He knew what to do. So that was just great. Yeah. So Anybody else have any more comments about this movie? And I know we touched a lot on Sopranos too and other things. But
I don't know how far
you
want to go with it, but before, offline, I was talking with Marvin about the idea of Easter eggs. Like this movie had so many of them, and I'm scared that
definitely. If you want to touch them, let's touch them.
Well, before we go into touching them, I was like, I'm worried that like movies nowadays they're just going to be Easter egg heavy. I don't want that to be a substitute. To Marvin's discussion, I want to be a substitute for actually a good story. You know what I mean? Well, like tell a story.
No, I was telling him this is a kind of circle this back to comics. This is basically the same thing with continuity, where you get so dependent on continuity that it's hard to grasp the story because like wait, you have to know what happened 20 years ago. Where I kind of fear that too. I kind of feel like we may get to a point where only certain people will understand these things. That's how I kind of feel about some of Kevin Smith's later movies, because it's like, okay, clearly you have to have watched Jay and Silent Bob in order to understand what this new one was all about. Granted, he did make it for them, but at the same time, it's like, how do you expect to get a growing audience if you're only making a movie for this small group of people? So I think the idea that continuity or Easter eggs shouldn't be treated like a crutch. It should be what was the saying? Somebody said it should be treated like a tool, not a crutch.
Yeah, I mean it's becoming like, I mean this movie was my fault. My feeling was that was part of the weaknesses. Like you had to refer to the show in order for it to sort of be connected.
When it should be able to stand on its own.
Yeah, when I want to see a movie also with it's just great performances. That's why I love Vera Farmiga for what she does. I like Corey Stoll who plays Corrado. But again, they can't breathe their own creativity, their own experiences into these characters because they've already been far established.
It's been
award-winning show. You're put in a box.
Unless you're showing them at a point where they're not quite the characters they are in The Sopranos and they're growing into those characters. Which, as we're talking about with Corrado, because he was a laughingstock and now he's clearly taking things into his own hands.
Yeah.
I think as far as Easter eggs go, I understand what you guys are saying about a lot of it's like inside jokes. The inside joke, and if you don't know it, then you're kind of lost. I think like certain Easter eggs kind of just okay, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, then it just flows. You just flow. It's like good example for me. I just thought of it now was the the last two Indiana Jones movies, and they always. In Last Crusade, they're looking for the tablet.
Is that the Ark of the Covenant? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's a wall of the Ark of the Covenant, and then heck, they put it in your face. Obviously, in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they put it in your face.
And it would have been a different story if they made the Ark of the Covenant a total plot point. And you're like, wait, what was that? And
that's what I'm saying. If you did it like that, where a lot of folks who know inside jokes, oh wow, there's the Ark, or that's fine to me. It's like, okay, if you know the joke, that's cool. If not, oh well, what was that?
But I think in this day and age with entertainment, especially with the way how successful the Marvel movies are, this is kind of like, okay, this is what we're going into. This is, because I think they're kind of saying that it's kind of part of the experience. Like, even when you were to read when I was younger, when I started reading comic books, I would be like, wait, what is this? For me, like, I know I get the argument that like you may isolate people if you're just doing too much inside, but if done right, you can get people to go and look it up. Like when I would read something in the comics, like I would read an X-Men comic, and then you see that little blurb, if you want to know what happened, read Avengers. I'm like, oh, what happened in Avengers? Then read that. Like I said, I think if it's done right, it can work. But like I said, it should, back to what I was saying, it should be used as a tool, not a crutch.
Exactly. I mean, heck, one of the best Easter egg, I know Marvel's loaded with them, but in my opinion, one of the best Easter eggs done in the MCU was looking at Nick Fury's Tombstone. That by far, see, it's like if you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. And that's what was so cool about that. And that had nothing to do with Marvel. It had everything to do with Samuel Jackson. See, so that's what's really cool. So you want to discuss Easter eggs? Go ahead, Justin. What you want to talk about any specifics, or just what we just talked about now?
Off the top of the head, and I won't make this into a deep dive like I did before, but it's a list. Corrado talking about baseball. Hey, you want to go play baseball outside? You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
2, Johnny Boy playing with the dog that Johnny gave away to his Gamar.
It's funny. I wasn't really paying attention to Easter eggs. The only ones I really caught were Holsteins and, like I said, like baby Christopher being afraid of Tony. Those were really or Carmela, which, like I said, you know, thankfully, like you didn't have to know that was going to be his wife growing up when you were watching it. That's why you're like, okay, you know, if you're watching for the first time, that probably, you know, that's just some random girl he met.
Holston's, and then Holston's is a place where I'm now associating with just death.
Yeah, is that a real place?
Yes.
Okay, I want to. There you go.
Real life place.
I'm gonna put that on my list of places to try.
Yeah, Yelp it, man. Any other Easter eggs? I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, real references to Frank Lucas, but the Frank Lucas in a fur coat. Remember, I guess I was understanding.
Yeah, that one kind of.
He's supposed to be in a suit.
No, I remember vividly in American Gangster where Frank Lucas said, "This is how they catch you, when you're flashy, when you're making yourself known." And then the moment he does that in the movie, that's when Russell Crowe notices him. Yeah, so I think he was at that stage where he didn't care who was watching.
Yeah, so that was an Easter egg with Frank Lucas. Yeah, that was a good one there, and that was just so ironic. Like I said, I was talking to Aldo about that, how Frank Lucas establishes how Black people can be their own mobsters. They don't need to work for people. And sure enough, I go, oh, that's Frank Lucas right there.
Yeah,
that was kind of funny. So, I'm trying to think of any ones I caught personally, but just seeing.
Did you catch?
Yeah, that was my thing.
They mentioned Vesuvius as a restaurant.
Yeah.
That might have been maybe Artie's dad. I don't know.
Artie Bucco?
Yeah, I think Artie, were they standing in front of what would become his restaurant when they were smoking the cigarettes? I think that was it, right?
It was in I don't think it was in a dialogue between Livia and somebody else that they're talking about Vesuvius or something like that. Or maybe they mentioned, or someone mentioned Vesuvius as the volcano. I'm not sure.
You know what's interesting also about the scene where Artie and Tony are smoking cigarettes as little kids? Artie kept saying to Tony, I look up to your Uncle Dickie. Yeah. And later on when we see the Sopranos, what Artie goes through in the later seasons, what he ends up doing. And that's why I just go, oh, that's kind of interesting. That was kind of a little Easter egg foresight of, what Artie Bucco becomes, what he does later on and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I honestly thought, as we're wrapping it up, I believe, just to me, it was what it was. Again, doing a prequel is pretty tough to do, especially if you're following up great work. If you're following up great work, again, my example is always the Star Wars reference of how, everybody wanted to hear these stories about Anakin Skywalker, yet, he ends up being Darth Vader. And it kind of, the creative of how you can do that, really, you're kind of pigeonholed in a way. You get one shot at it. And like you guys have established, you had award-winning acting and award-winning writing. Let's get that clear too, gentlemen. Right. The guys that wrote with Chase, phenomenal. So to try to live up to that, that's kind of a tough thing to do. Even if you bring Chase back, he had a writing staff that, oh man, hands down, just awesome. So, that's why, in a way, I kind of, whenever it comes to prequels or even sequels too, I kind of try not to judge it from the original, because if you do, you're going to be disappointed 9 out of 10 times, in my opinion, if you keep comparing it to the original source material, and you're like, oh, but they didn't do it this way, or they could have done it that way. Well, again, in my opinion, I've learned through the years that when it comes to prequels and sequels, you just kind of have to, go with what they give you and not expect it to live up to the standard. If the original source material was that great, that it's going to be kind of tough to live up to that. So.
Can I ask both of you guys a question, you and Marv? And then this could be if you want to close up. After watching, 2 questions. 1, after watching this movie, will you see The Sopranos with a different lens? And 2, closing thought, what did you overall, what's the statement you could say about the movie? Did you like it or not?
I don't think I will watch it with a different lens. It's not going to totally change my perspective of the show at all. I mean, I think just because we know where all these characters end up, and you know how I feel about the movie.
I think for me, I'm oddly enough watching season 1 with the wife because she's never saw it. So for me, it's more like, again, it's been years since I've seen it. So it's like, oh, okay, reestablishing yourself with these characters. And in a way, it was kind of motivating, especially like Christopher. I didn't, in season 1, I knew he was like the young kid, but he was really the young punk kid who Tony really needed to like, hey, you need to do it this way and not that way. No, don't try to do this and that. And I did finish the episode where, when Brandon gets whacked, how Christopher himself even said, well, maybe things are all messed up because guys are doing and not following leadership, not following the order. That's why business is all messed up. And so as far as influencing me and how I'm watching the series now, I'm not watching it, obviously for my wife, just so, hey, here's the Sopranos. And kind of, for me personally, I'm trying to look at stuff that I missed, in a way that, I totally remember that. Or, wow, okay, that's a little deep now, and see things like that. As far as how I judge the movie itself, I thought it worked for me. It kind of filled the Soprano fix that I've been missing for so many years, and it worked. But I'm not going to say it's a must watch. It's nowhere near Godfather, Casino, or Goodfellas. No. Come on.
I would give huge caution to people who have never seen The Sopranos about watching.
Yeah, see,
if they just want to watch a mob movie, okay, but if you're one of those people who's like, I just want to see a movie, well, what's this about? If you haven't seen The Sopranos, be careful.
It may work. I think it'll work. If you're somebody who's never seen The Sopranos or
but you
doesn't
like
have any influences and just like mob movies, I think they'll enjoy this. I think so.
And then they're gonna go, you need to watch Sopranos. You really do.
Yeah, and I think afterwards, if you really are that person that likes mob movies and you've never seen The Sopranos and you watch this movie, you better watch The Sopranos then. I mean, you just have to. It'll establish more. But again, my feeling on that, it's kind of like watching the Star Wars movies in the episode order. So
oh my God.
Take that for what you will. Okay, is that anybody got anything else, gentlemen?
3 things.
Yes.
Syl has a wig.
Who?
Syl.
Oh yeah.
Oh. I do want to, or don't you have, I do want to tie this to the last podcast.
So when watching Sopranos, I'll know that Syl has a wig.
Yes.
I'll know that Olivia has untreated mental illness. And 3, it's gonna affect how I see the show, knowing that Junior killed Dickie Montesanti and basically changed the fate of where they're at now. I'll know that watching the series.
See, and it's interesting you brought that up, Jesse, because I'm watching season 1 and his problems he's having with Christopher and Brendan. I'm like, wow, okay, you killed his
makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. And that's why in the episode he's talking to Liv, and Liv goes, well, Christopher, maybe he just needs a talking to, but that Brandon, and what happened? Christopher was taken out. They scared the crap out of him, and then Brandon they killed because of Liv. Liv was the one who kind of, I wouldn't say green lighted it. I wouldn't say, gave the word, but she's the one that influenced Corrado to do it. See, because Corrado the whole time was saying, "What am I going to do with these guys? They walk all over me. It was Liv that basically said, "Oh, it's up to you. You can." Yeah. And then again, she always ends it. What do I know? I'm a crazy old lady anyway. See,
and that's how you're wondering what David. You kind of getting a glimpse of this is what David Chase thinks about.
I know. It's great. All right, so with that being said, it is a pleasure. We were talking about the Many Saints of Newark. Please comment on the bottom if you agreed with us. If you thought we were full of crap, please let us know.
Or for way too long. We had a lot to say.
Yeah, so if you think we missed the mark on a lot of things, please let us know. So comment right there. For Jocelyn, who's out on assignment, rest in peace, DJ GOC. That's Jesse. It's Marvin. I'm
Party Buco.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. Peace.